I'm going to ask you something straight up. When you're signing a $300,000 check for a tractor, are you buying iron? Or are you buying an asset? Because those are two completely different conversations. And in 2026, when corn's sitting at $4.20 a bushel and your break-even is closer to $5, when fertilizer costs just went up another 20% last year, when every dollar you spend on equipment either works for you or against you on that balance sheet, that question matters more than it ever has before. My name doesn't matter. What matters is, I've been farming in this country long enough to know the difference between a shiny spec sheet and a tractor that actually pays for itself. And today at Farm Gear Pro, we're having the real conversation about two machines that a whole lot of guys are putting serious thought into right now. The new Holland Genesis T8 and the Fendt 724 Vario. Same horsepower neighborhood, same price range, completely different personalities. And one of them is going to serve your operation better over the long haul than the other. Let's figure out which one that is for you. Let me tell you how I came to care about this question. A buddy of mine over in central Illinois, good farmer, smart guy, bought a high horsepower tractor about 6 years ago based almost entirely on the spec sheet and the dealer's pitch. Monthly payment looked manageable, machine looked beautiful sitting in the yard. 4 years later, he traded it and took a bath on asset depreciation he hadn't fully accounted for. He told me, and I'll never forget this, he said, "I bought the brochure. I should have bought the tractor." That stuck with me. Because in a year like 2026, where USDA is projecting corn at $4.20, soybeans at about $11.09, and your cost to plant 1 acre of corn has crept back up near $9.17, you cannot afford to buy the brochure anymore. You need the tractor. So let's talk about these two machines the right way. What are we actually comparing here? The new Holland Genesis T8 is a lineup of row crop tractors from CNH Industrial, built in Resale, Wisconsin, and New Holland, Pennsylvania. The T8 series in 2026 runs from about 325 horsepower all the way up to the T8.440, which hits 435 horsepower with the engine power management boost active. For this conversation, we're focused on the upper end of that lineup, the T8.415 and T8.440, because that's where the real head-to-head with the Fendt gets interesting. The Fendt 724 Vario is a German-engineered machine, built by AGCO's Fendt division in Marktoberdorf, Bavaria. The current generation is the Gen7, and as of late 2025, Fendt has released the Gen 7.1 update, which is a meaningful upgrade. The 724 runs a 6.1-litre Deutz engine rated at 243 horsepower with the standard setup. Add Fendt's dynamic performance system, and you push that up to 263 horsepower max. That's a step below the T8 in raw numbers. But hold on, because horsepower alone does not tell this story. Now, why are people comparing these two? Because they're both premium, full-featured row crop tractors in a similar price window. They're both loaded with technology. They both attract a certain kind of farmer. The guy who wants the best tool in the shed is willing to pay for quality and expects that investment to hold its value. That last part is where things get really interesting. The power conversation. But not the way you think most guys start with horsepower. Fine, let's go there. The new Holland T8.440 pushes to 396 rated horsepower on the Ultra Command transmission. Kick in the engine power management, EPM, and she'll hit 435 horsepower when the work demands it. That's a big, capable tractor. The FPT cursor engine under that hood has a 40% torque rise, which means when you hit a hard spot in a tillage pass or you're pulling a big planter through heavy ground, the engine doesn't bog down, it digs in. New Holland has also updated the drivelines on the 2025 model year T8 specifically to handle that peak power, without the transmission stress that plagued some earlier configurations. The Fendt 724 Vario Gen7.1 is rated at 243 horsepower base, but add dynamic performance and you're at 263 horsepower maximum. Now that's a meaningful gap versus the T8.440 on paper. But here's what Fendt will tell you, and they can back it up with independent test data. The 724 punches above its rated horsepower in the field because of how efficiently that Vario Drive CVT delivers power to the ground. In the independent DLG power mix test, the 724 Gen 7.1 achieved only 242 grams per kilowatt-hour fuel consumption, the same result as the bigger Fendt 728. During road transport, it hit 50 kilometers per hour at just 1/300 engine RPMs. The test showed it performed more than 20% better on fuel efficiency during transport than any tractor they'd previously tested in that class. 9% better than the Gen 6 predecessor. Over 5,000 operating hours, Fendt calculates that efficiency advantage translates to potential operating cost savings of over $17,000 compared to comparable tractors in that horsepower range. Let me be real with you about what that means in farm terms. If you're running this tractor hard, 1,000 hours a year, that's real money back in your pocket over 5 years. Not brochure math, independently verified test bench numbers. Does that close the gap with the T8 on raw horsepower? No, not completely. But it changes the conversation from which one is stronger to which one is cheaper to operate per acre worked. And that second question is the one that actually matters to your bottom line. The transmission. This is where these two machines are worlds apart. If there is one single thing that defines the difference between these tractors, this is it. And I want you to pay attention here because this is the part that has the biggest impact on your day-to-day experience and your long-term reliability picture. The Fendt 724 runs the Vario Drive CVT. Continuously variable transmission. No fixed gear ratios, no shifting, infinite speed adjustment from about 65 feet per hour all the way to 31 miles per hour. Front and rear axles are driven independently in Vario Drive, meaning Fendt can actively balance torque front to rear based on ground conditions in real time. On sloped ground, in muddy headlands, pulling through wet spots, the system reads traction at each axle and adjusts without you touching anything. It also eliminates the need for manual four-wheel drive selection. The system handles it, you just drive. The new Holland T8 gives you a choice: Ultra Command full power shift with 19 forward speeds or Auto Command CVT. If you're looking at the T8.440 seriously, you want to think carefully about that transmission choice because it affects both your horsepower rating and your operating style. The Auto Command CVT on the T8 is a solid transmission, but in independent evaluations it doesn't have the same reputation for silky smoothness and long-term durability confidence that the Fendt Vario Drive has earned over 2 decades in the field. And I'll tell you something that gets brought up at every farm show when these two are parked next to each other. Guys who've run both will almost always say the Fendt feels better to drive. That's not a small thing. When you're spending 10, 12, 14 hours a day in that seat during planting and tillage season, the tractor that feels right keeps your operator fresher and more focused. Operator fatigue is a real cost that doesn't show up on the spec sheet. Technology and precision AG. Both of these tractors are loaded, and I mean loaded, with precision farming technology in 2026. Let's be honest about where each one stands. The new Holland T8 runs PLM intelligence, precision land management. It's the first tractor New Holland has said is fully factory integrated with their PLM platform. You get 3 factory-fitted guidance packages to choose from. You spec the accuracy level you need right from the order form, whether that's basic auto steer or full RTK sub-inch accuracy. The IntelliView 12 monitor is the command center, a 12-inch touchscreen with automotive-style display, customizable to your preference. MyPLM Connect gives you remote connectivity, real-time machine data, remote support from your dealer, fleet management if you're running multiple units. For a farming operation that's already using precision variable rate seeding and fertility programs, that connectivity matters. The Fendt 724 runs Fendt 1. This is Fendt's fully integrated operating environment, essentially the same software platform across the tractor cab and the Fendt 1 app on your phone or tablet. From anywhere on the farm, you can monitor machine performance, adjust field settings, and review operational data. The Vario grip system on the Fendt lets you adjust tire pressure on the go from the cab, critical for managing soil compaction when you're transitioning between field work and road transport without stopping to kneel in the mud with a gauge. And the hydraulic system on the 724 Gen 7.1 offers up to 10 rear spools, all clearly named and individually programmable from the cab display. That kind of hydraulic flexibility is something guys with complex implement setups genuinely appreciate. Both machines support isobus, meaning your implements talk to your tractor and your tractor talks back. Both are guidance-ready with GPS precision. The Fendt platform has been called one of the most intuitive operating environments in the tractor industry right now. The PLM intelligence platform on the T8 is deep and capable, but has a steeper learning curve for operators who aren't already in the new Holland ecosystem. Right here, right now. If you're getting value out of this breakdown, go hit that like button and subscribe to Farm Gear Pro. We do this work so you don't have to go hunting across 5 different forums and 3 YouTube channels to get a straight answer. Hit subscribe, ring the bell, and let's keep going. Because we haven't even gotten to the asset value question yet, and that is the most important part of this whole conversation. Long-term asset value. The real reason you're watching this. All right. Here's where I'm going to be absolutely straight with you because this is the question in the title and it deserves a real answer. Fendt holds its value. Period. Full stop. That is the reputation these machines have earned in the used equipment market over years and years of transactions. When a well-maintained Fendt comes up for sale, whether it's a 724 or a bigger 900 series, buyers show up. The used market for Fendt in North America is active and competitive, and the residual values on these machines are consistently stronger than comparable our competitors. Why? Partly it's the brand mystique. Fendt buyers are loyal, and they're willing to pay a premium for proven German engineering. Partly it's the transmission. The Vario Drive CVT has a track record now. Guys know what they're getting. And partly it's the dealer network. AGCO has been building Fendt dealer coverage in the US, and while it's not as deep as some domestic brands in every region, the dealers that sell Fendt tend to be well-equipped and technically strong. The new Holland T8 has solid resale value too. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. CNH Industrial backs these machines with real dealer coverage across the US, and the T8 has a long track record going back through many model generations. Parts availability on the T8 is excellent. Your rural New Holland dealer typically has T8 service experience on the floor. And for some operations, especially those running mixed CNH fleets with Case IH equipment, which shares many components with New Holland, the integration advantage is real. But if you talk to equipment appraisers who do this for a living, the folks who value iron for estate sales, bank collateral, and auction estimates, Fendt consistently comes up as a stronger residual value story in the premium row crop tractor space. Part of that is supply and demand. There are more New Hollands out there. Fendt is a smaller volume brand in North America, which supports used values. Now, there's a flip side to that coin, and I'm going to say it plainly. Some guys who've owned Fendt have run into transmission repair costs that will make your eyes water. The Vario Drive is an outstanding transmission when it's running well. When it needs major work, you're having a serious conversation with your dealer about a bill that can run into 5 figures on an older machine. The Gen 7 design is more mature than earlier generations, and the reliability story has improved. But it's a real factor you need to ask about when you're talking to a Fendt dealer. The new Holland T8, by comparison, has a power shift transmission option that most mechanics can work on. Parts are more widely available. Repair costs on major work tend to be more predictable. For a farming operation in a rural area without a strong Fendt dealer nearby, that serviceability difference can matter a lot when something breaks at 10 p.m. during planting, and you need to be back in the field by sunrise. What does your operation actually look like? Here's the thing about this comparison that I think gets missed in most equipment discussions. Neither of these tractors is objectively better. They're better for different operations. And figuring out which one is better for your operation requires being honest about a few things. If you're farming big corn and soybean acres in the Corn Belt, running multiple tillage passes, pulling an air seeder or large planter, and you want a tractor that your hired man can climb into without a week of training, the new Holland T8 is a serious, proven machine. It's built in America. Parts are everywhere. Your local dealer knows it. The PLM technology is real and functional, and at the top of the lineup, 435 horsepower with EPM gives you the grunt for heavy tillage work without breaking a sweat. From a pure working tractor that gets the job done perspective, the T8 delivers. If you're farming a mix of row crops and hay, running a lot of hours in both field and transport work, watching fuel costs like a hawk because margins are what they are right now, and you care deeply about the long-term asset value of everything parked in your machine shed. The Fendt 724 Vario is a machine worth serious consideration. The fuel efficiency numbers are independently verified and genuinely impressive. The Vario drive is the smoothest CVT in the class. Fendt Hone is the most intuitive cab environment in the business right now, and when it comes time to sell or trade, you're going to be glad you bought the green one. The bottom line. In 2026, with input costs near record highs and commodity prices still underwater on a break-even basis, every capital decision you make for your operation needs to pencil out over the full ownership period. Not just the first 2 years. Not just the monthly payment, the full 5, 7, 10-year picture. The new Holland T8 Genesis gives you more horsepower for the money in this comparison. If raw power, parts availability, and domestic dealer depth are your top priorities, it wins that argument. The Fendt 724 Vario gives you lower operating costs, stronger resale value, and the most refined operator experience in this class. If your operation runs high hours, you're sensitive to fuel burn, and you want the machine that holds its value when you go to trade, it wins that argument. The worst thing you can do is walk into a dealership without doing the math first. Know your annual hours. Know your fuel cost per hour. Know your expected trade cycle. Run those numbers against both machines, and the answer will become a lot clearer. And whatever you do, buy from a dealer you trust, who knows your operation, and who will answer the phone at 8 in the evening when something goes sideways. Because that relationship is worth more than any spec number on any brochure. Thanks for watching Farm Gear Pro. If you found this breakdown valuable, share it with a fellow farmer and comment below your thoughts on this topic. See you in the next one.